Welcome to my channel, HFY Story Hub. The first time anyone truly noticed her, the lights went out. Not flickered, not dimmed. They died. And in that sudden darkness, something far worse replaced the light. A grown man collapsed, gasping like he couldn't breathe. A woman clutched her chest, tears falling for no reason she could explain. A child screamed, not from what he saw, but from what he felt. And, in the corner of that hallway, the small blue girl didn't move at all. Because she already knew. She always knew. The Galactic Adoption Center was supposed to be the happiest place on Earth. At least, that's what the bright sign outside promised. Colorful letters. Smiling children. Hands joined across species. Hope everywhere. Families came every week. Humans. Aliens. Mixed species from distant stars. Some arrived nervous. Some excited. All of them searching for something missing in their lives. Inside, the halls were alive. A four-armed child painted glowing shapes across the walls while a caretaker pretended not to notice. Twin girls with silver hair sang soft, haunting songs no one understood, but everyone felt. A tiny green boy laughed as a floating pet chased him in circles. It was loud, warm, full of life. Exactly what a place like this should be. But if you walked far enough, past the laughter, past the color, past everything that felt safe, you would find a hallway no one talked about. Long, quiet, empty. At the very end of it was a small room. Plain, cold, silent. And inside that room sat a girl. Her name was Lyra. She looked younger than she really was. Small, fragile. Her skin was deep ocean blue, like water before a storm. Her long purple hair fell loosely, messy, untouched. But it was her eyes that stopped people. Pale silver. Still. Watching too deeply. She didn't look at people the way others did. She looked through them, like she could see something they didn't want seen. In her arms, she held a small fuzzy creature. Round. Soft. Lavender-colored. It never made a sound. It never left her. It was the only thing that stayed. On the wall beside her chair, a digital screen displayed her record. Every child had one. Name, age, and a number. Visitors. Most children had numbers like 12, 30, maybe 50. The most popular reached 100. Lyra's number was 1,000. 1,000 families had come. 1,000 had seen her file. Some had even walked all the way down that quiet hallway. They stood at her door, looked inside, and then they left. Every single one. No arguments. No second chances. Just silence and footsteps fading away. The staff never explained it. When new workers asked, the older ones would just say, "Don't send families there." Why? A pause. Then, quietly, "They won't stay." Lyra never cried, never begged, never chased anyone. She had learned something no child should ever learn. How to expect nothing. On a quiet Tuesday morning, the pattern broke. The front doors opened, and a man walked in. Human. Tall. Broad shoulders. Wearing an old jacket that had seen better days. But what stood out wasn't how he looked. It was what he carried. Not physically. Emotionally. Stillness. The kind that only comes after losing something you can't replace. His name was Marcus. He didn't smile, didn't rush, didn't act overwhelmed like most visitors. He just stood there observing. Children laughed around him. Families talked. Staff greeted newcomers. But Marcus didn't move toward any of it. His eyes slowly scanned the room, passing over the happy scenes, the easy choices, the safe options. And then, they stopped. At the hallway, the quiet one, the one no one pointed to, the one no one explained. He stared at it, longer than anyone ever had. And then, he walked, straight toward it. Behind the front desk, Sarah noticed immediately. She had worked here for 23 years. She understood people. She understood patterns. And this was not normal. "Sir," she called gently. Marcus stopped, turned. His eyes were calm, tired but calm. "Yes." She gave a polite smile. There are many wonderful children available today. I can show you some files. He shook his head slightly. That girl. Sarah froze. Which girl? He raised his hand, pointed, down the long hallway, to the very last room, the one sitting alone. The air changed. Subtle, but real. Sarah's smile disappeared. Sir, she said carefully, lowering her voice, you don't want that one. Marcus didn't react, didn't argue, didn't look confused. He simply asked, what's wrong with her? The question hit harder than any shout. Behind Sarah, 2 staff members stopped moving. A young worker looked up, eyes wide. Even the soft humming of a nearby alien pet went silent. Because in 23 years, no one had ever asked that. Not once. They saw the number. They felt something uncomfortable. And they left. But this man was asking why. Sarah hesitated, then slowly pulled out a file. Thick. Far thicker than any other child's. She placed it on the desk between them but didn't open it. Every family that has met her, she said quietly, left afraid. Marcus glanced at the file, then back at her. Afraid of a child? Sarah swallowed. Afraid of what they felt near her. Silence. Marcus looked toward the hallway again. Then, without touching the file, he walked, past the desk, past the warning, down the long, silent corridor. Lyra felt him before she saw him. She always felt people first. Emotions came before footsteps. Fear, doubt, nervous excitement. It always reached her early. But this was different. Heavy, deep, quiet. And it didn't push her away. It stayed. She slowly lifted her head. For the first time that day, Anne saw him. A human man, sitting on the cold floor just outside her room. Not too close. Not too far. Just enough. Their eyes met. He didn't look away. Didn't force a smile. He simply said, Hey. Lyra stared at him, waiting for the moment it would break. It always did. So she said softly, You should leave. But Marcus didn't move. He nodded like her words mattered. And then he asked, the one question no one had ever asked her. Why do you keep telling people to leave? Lyra's grip tightened on the small creature in her arms. Her silver eyes darkened slightly. And for the first time in years, she didn't look at the floor. The moment she decided to answer him, the temperature dropped. Not by much. Just enough that the air felt heavier. Harder to breathe. Like the room itself was holding something back. And for the first time since he walked in, Marcus felt it. A pressure. Not outside. Inside. A memory trying to surface. He didn't move. Didn't look away. Didn't run. And that was new. Lyra watched him carefully. Waiting. Every person who had ever sat where he sat had done the same thing at first. They stayed. They listened. They pretended they were strong enough. Until they weren't. Until she happened. Until whatever they carried inside became too much to hold. You should still leave, she said again, quieter this time. Marcus leaned his head back against the wall. I've been told that before, he replied calmly. Lyra blinked. That wasn't the usual response. Most people got uncomfortable, or defensive, or afraid. He just sounded honest. Not here, he added after a second. But I understand the idea. Silence stretched between them. Then, finally, Lyra spoke. Do you know what a Valori is? Marcus shook his head. No. Her fingers moved slowly through the soft fur of the creature in her lap. We were a species, she said. The past tense didn't shake, didn't crack. It landed flat. Our world is gone. Marcus didn't interrupt, didn't offer sympathy. He just listened. That mattered more. We felt emotions, Lyra continued. Not just our own. Everyone's. Marcus nodded slightly. Empaths. Yes, she said softly. But I am not like the others. A pause. A small breath. I don't just feel what people carry. Her silver eyes lifted, locking onto his. I give it back. The hallway felt quieter, like even the walls were listening. Marcus didn't speak. So she continued. If someone feels a little fear near me, I reflected. Her voice remained calm, controlled, practiced. But it doesn't come back the same. She looked down briefly. It grows. Marcus's jaw tightened slightly. How much? Lyra met his eyes again. Enough that they can't ignore it anymore. Silence. If someone carries sadness, she said, it becomes overwhelming. If they carry anger, it doubles. If they carry doubt, it consumes them. She hesitated, just for a second, then finished. I don't choose it. Marcus exhaled slowly. I can't stop it. The truth settled between them. Heavy, unavoidable. And suddenly, everything made sense. The number, the fear, the empty room. 1,000 families hadn't rejected her. They had run from themselves. Marcus looked down at his hands, then back at her. So when people come here, he said slowly, they bring hope. Lyra nodded. Yes. And then they see your number. Another nod. And that hope turns into doubt. Yes. And doubt becomes fear. Her voice dropped. And fear comes back to them, bigger. Silence. Marcus leaned his head back again, closed his eyes briefly. Processing. Have you ever hurt anyone? He asked. Lyra shook her head immediately. Never on purpose. Her voice sharpened for the first time. I try not to. That word lingered. Try. Because she knew it didn't always matter. Marcus opened his eyes again. I believe you. Lyra froze. That was too fast. Too certain. People didn't do that. Not with her. How? She asked quietly. You just met me. Marcus thought for a moment, then said simply, because you told me to leave. Lyra blinked. He continued, dangerous things don't warn people. Silence. They don't care what happens to you. He looked at her directly. You do. Something shifted. Small. Careful. Like a crack in something frozen for too long. Lyra looked away first. Her fingers stilled. No one had ever said that to her before. Not like that. Not without fear attached. Marcus adjusted slightly on the floor. Can I ask you something? He said. She hesitated, then nodded once. When you look at me right now. He held her gaze. What do you feel? Lyra went still. Completely still. That question. No one had ever asked that either. Because no one wanted to know. She studied him. Carefully. Slowly. Letting her awareness reach out. Touching the surface of what he carried. And the moment it did, her breath caught. It hit her like a wave. Deep. Cold. Endless. Grief. But not sharp. Not angry. Not broken. This grief was different. It was soft. Heavy but gentle. Like something precious that refused to turn into something ugly. Lyra's fingers tightened slightly. She pulled back instinctively. Not out of fear. Out of surprise. Marcus noticed. What is it? He asked quietly. She looked at him. Really looked. I'll tell you, she said slowly. But not yet. He frowned slightly. Why? Because I need to be sure. Of what? Lyra hesitated. Then whispered. That you won't run. That night. Marcus didn't go home. Not right away. He sat in his car across the street from the center. Engine off. Lights off. Just watching. One window on the far end of the building stayed lit. Lyra's room. 3 hours passed. He didn't check his phone. Didn't turn on music. Didn't move. Because something inside him, something quiet, had already decided. The next morning, he came back. Before the doors even opened, Sarah saw him through the glass. Closed her eyes briefly. Then unlocked the door without a word. Marcus walked straight in. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Down the long hallway. To the last room. Lyra was already awake. Sitting in her chair. Holding her small creature. Waiting. She looked up as he approached. And this time, there was something different in her eyes. You came back, she said. Marcus sat down in the same place as before. Like it belonged to him now. I said I would. Lyra tilted her head slightly. People say many things. Marcus nodded. Yeah. A pause. Then he asked, Are you sure now? The hallway felt still again. Lyra looked at him for a long time. Then slowly, she set the small creature beside her. sat up straighter, and for the first time, she didn't hold anything back. Her silver eyes locked onto his, and she reached out fully, into everything he carried, and what she found made her heart stop. The moment she touched his emotions, the entire hallway reacted. The lights above them flickered violently. A low hum spread through the walls. And deep inside the Galactic Adoption Center, every sensitive system started to fail. Because what Lyra found inside Marcus was not something meant to be seen all at once. She froze. Completely. Her silver eyes widened as if she had stepped into something endless. Grief. But not the kind she knew. Not sharp. Not chaotic. Not destructive. This grief was vast, like an ocean without a shore. Cold, but steady. Heavy, but controlled. It didn't explode outward. It didn't try to escape. It simply existed, carried, endured. And beneath it, something else. Something she had never felt before from anyone. Not in 1,000 visits. Not even from her own kind. Love. Not fading. Not broken. Still alive even after loss. Lyra's breath trembled, because she understood something terrifying in that moment. If she reflected this back at him, at full strength, it would crush him. Anyone else would break. Anyone else would collapse under that weight. She had seen it happen. Again. And again. And again. Her instinct told her to pull back. To stop. To protect him the way she tried to protect everyone. But then, Marcus spoke. Softly. Eyes still open. Still steady. Don't stop. Lyra's head snapped up slightly. You don't understand, she whispered. I think I do, he replied. No. Her voice shook now. This is not like the others. Good. That answer made her hesitate. For the first time in her life, someone wasn't afraid of what they carried. Marcus looked directly at her. I've been carrying it alone anyway, he said quietly. If you're going to show it, show all of it. The hallway went silent. Even the faint sounds from distant rooms faded. Lyra's hands trembled. She had spent years holding back, protecting others from themselves. But now, someone was asking her not to. Are you sure? She asked one last time. Marcus nodded. I'm sure. And then, Lyra let go. Completely. No walls. No control. No restraint. She released everything she was. The effect was immediate. The lights surged, then dimmed. A wave of emotion exploded outward. Invisible, but unstoppable. It hit Marcus first. Full force. The grief. The loss. The emptiness of a chair that would never be filled again. The echo of laughter that no longer existed. The memory of small footsteps that would never return. And then, the love. Overwhelming. Endless. Refusing to die. Marcus's body reacted instantly. His hands pressed against the floor. His breathing hitched. A tear slid down his face. Then another. Then more. But he didn't pull away. Didn't try to escape. Didn't shut it down. He stayed. Right there. Inside it. Feeling everything. At full strength. Lyra stared at him in shock. This wasn't possible. People didn't survive this. They ran. They broke. They begged her to stop. But Marcus stayed. Seconds passed. Then a full minute. The pressure in the air didn't fade. It grew. Deeper. Stronger. Lyra pushed more of it toward him. Testing. Waiting for the breaking point. Waiting for the collapse. It didn't come. Marcus's eyes closed. His jaw tightened. His body trembled slightly. But he stayed. Another minute passed. Lyra's heart began to race. This wasn't normal. This wasn't happening. No one could carry this much. No one. Marcus inhaled sharply. Then slowly, he opened his eyes. Tears still falling. But his gaze was steady. He looked directly at her and asked quietly, Is that everything? Lyra's breath stopped. No. Okay. That was it. No panic. No fear. Just acceptance. I can carry it, he said. Something inside Lyra broke open. Not pain. Not fear. Something else. Something she didn't have a word for. Her entire life, People had run from what she revealed. But this man was choosing to stay inside it, choosing to feel it, choosing to carry it. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. In my whole life, she swallowed. No one has ever done that. Marcus didn't look away. Maybe no one ever tried. Lyra slowly pulled the reflection back, letting the emotional storm fade. The pressure lifted. The lights steadied. The hallway returned to normal. But nothing was the same anymore. Marcus leaned back against the wall, breathing slowly, recovering, but not broken, not even close. Lyra watched him carefully, still trying to understand what she had just seen. Then, finally, she said it. What I feel from you, Marcus looked at her, is not pity. He nodded slightly. She continued, you're not here because you feel sorry for me.
No. A pause.
Then softly, you're here because... Her silver eyes softened. You're lonely too. The words landed gently, but they were true. Marcus didn't deny it, didn't hide it. He just nodded once. And that was enough. Silence filled the space between them, but it wasn't empty anymore. For the first time, it felt shared. Lyra hesitated. Then slowly, very carefully, she reached out her hand.
Small. Blue.
Uncertain. And placed it over his. The moment their skin touched, the lights flickered again. But this time, nothing broke. Nothing collapsed. Because for the first time in her life, Lyra didn't reflect anything back. Not fear. Not grief. Not pain. Just stillness. And far down the hallway, Sarah stood frozen, watching, realizing something impossible had just happened. Her hands slowly moved toward her desk, toward a hidden drawer, toward a card she hoped she would never need to use. Because if this continued, if anyone important found out, everything could change. And not everyone
would want that.
Before the council even met him, they had already decided he would fail. Because the system was not built to judge fairly. It was built to outlast people like Marcus. Director Voss did not arrive late. He arrived exactly when he meant to, which was early enough to stop this if he could. He stepped into the hallway with quiet authority.
Tall, pale, precise.
The kind of presence that didn't need to raise its voice. Lyra felt him instantly.
Cold, controlled,
layered, like someone who had buried everything messy inside rules. Her fingers tightened around her small creatures. Her body went still. Marcus noticed. He stepped forward without thinking. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just between them. Voss's eyes shifted to him. Mr. Marcus, he said calmly. This has gone far enough. Marcus didn't move. I just started, he replied. Inside Sarah's office, the air felt heavy, like something important was about to be decided. Voss placed a tablet on the desk, turned it toward Marcus. Directive 7 to 12, he said. Valori classification, prohibited for civilian adoption. Marcus read it.
Carefully.
Slowly. Then asked, why? No emotion. Just truth. Voss answered the way he always did. The Valori ability is categorized as a Category 3 psychological hazard. He spoke like reading from memory. In unstable conditions, emotional amplification can lead to severe outcomes. Marcus looked up. How many cases? Voss paused. That is not relevant. How many? Silence. Then, one. Sarah's breath caught behind them. Marcus leaned forward slightly. One case created this rule? It was catastrophic, Voss replied. How old was the child? 17. And the environment? Another pause. Documented prolonged domestic instability. Marcus nodded slowly, understanding forming piece by piece. So, he said quietly, a traumatized teenager in a broken home. He let the sentence hang. And that's enough to abandon every other child like her? No one answered, because there was no clean answer. Lyra sat alone again in her room. But the building didn't feel the same anymore. Emotions moved differently now.
Faster.
Sharper. She could feel tension spreading. Fear mixed with something else. Attention. Too much attention. And beneath it all, Marcus. Still steady. Still there. She closed her eyes and held on to that feeling, because everything else was starting to change. Marcus set the tablet down. Who can change it? He asked. Voss studied him. The Galactic Council. Good, Marcus said. Voss frowned slightly. Mr. Marcus, you don't understand the scale of what you're asking. Marcus met his gaze. I understand exactly. And there it was. Not anger. Not desperation.
Certainty.
The kind that didn't bend. Voss had seen many people argue. Many people demand. But this was different. This man wasn't trying to win an argument. He had already decided the outcome. The process began immediately. And it was brutal. 47 pages of forms. 6 languages. Legal structures designed to confuse. Requests for mental evaluations. Financial histories. Behavioral records. Every step layered to slow him down. To make him quit. Marcus didn't. He sat at his kitchen table that same night and started writing. Weeks passed. Then months. Every time he completed something, it came back. Corrections needed. Missing signatures. Rewritten sections. The system pushed. Hard. Trying to wear him down. People told him to stop. Coworkers said it wasn't worth it. Family said he needed time to heal. A reporter called him naive. Marcus heard all of it and kept going, because every weekend he returned to the same place, the same hallway, the same spot on the floor. And Lyra waited. He brought her books. At first simple, then more complex. She learned fast, faster than expected. He brought her a second small creature, because the first one had started to wear thin. Lyra studied it, then placed it beside the first one carefully. Now it isn't alone either, she said. Marcus didn't answer immediately, because something in his chest tightened again. But not painfully. Not anymore. One afternoon he brought a chessboard, taught her the rules. They played one game. She beat him in 11 moves. He stared at the board. She looked at him and asked, "Again?" And Marcus laughed. For real. For the first time in years. The sound surprised even him. Lyra didn't reflect it. She just listened. 6 months in, the council finally responded. Not because they wanted to, but because Marcus had given them no way out. Every document complete. Every requirement met. Every delay recorded. They had to act. The hearing was scheduled. 17 council members. 9 species. 1 decision. Marcus stood outside the chamber.
Alone.
No support. No guarantee. Just a promise he refused to break. Inside, Lyra felt everything. 17 minds. Layered emotions.
Control. Doubt. Curiosity. Fear.
So much fear. Not of her. Of what she revealed. Her hands tightened around her creatures. For the first time in months, she hesitated. Not because of them. Because of him. The doors opened. Marcus walked in.
Calm.
Steady. Unshaken. He reached the center of the chamber.
And stopped.
Every eye was on him. 17 different species. 17 judgments waiting. The head counselor leaned forward. State your request. Marcus didn't hesitate. I request a live evaluation. Murmurs spread across the room. Confusion. Concern.
Shock.
He continued. I want her ability used on me.
Fully.
No restrictions. Silence crashed down. Heavy. Absolute. Because everyone in that chamber knew what that meant. People had collapsed under less. Minds had broken. Careers had ended. Lives had changed. And this human was asking for it. Outside the chamber doors, Lyra felt the words. Every one of them. Her breath slowed. Her chest tightened. Because for the first time, since she met him, she was afraid. Not for herself. For him. The moment Lyra released everything, the council chamber fell apart. Not physically, but inside. Every single person broke. 17 minds. 17 lives. 17 carefully controlled identities. Shattered open at once. It started quietly. A breath caught. A hand trembling. Eyes widening as something long buried surfaced. Then, it spread. One by one. Like fire moving through dry air. A tall alien counselor gripped the edge of his desk, his composure gone in seconds. Another covered her mouth, tears spilling without warning. A third leaned back, shaking his head slowly, whispering something no one else could hear. Because Lyra wasn't hurting them. She was showing them everything they had hidden, everything they had locked away, everything they refused to face.
Grief.
Regret. Loneliness.
Guilt.
It filled the room like a storm.
Heavy.
Unavoidable. And, in the center of it, Marcus stood still, eyes closed, tears falling freely, his body trembling under the weight of it all. But he did not move, did not run, did not collapse. He stood, like a man who had already faced worse alone. Lyra stood beside him, her small hands shaking, her breathing uneven. She had never released this much before, never let it flow this freely. But Marcus had told her, don't hold back. So she didn't. Minutes passed.
Long.
Heavy. Unforgiving. And still, Marcus remained. Every wave she reflected, he endured. Every memory, every emotion, every hidden fracture inside that room. He stood inside, all of it, and did not break. Finally, Lyra pulled back.
Slowly. Carefully.
The storm faded. The pressure lifted. The chamber returned. But nothing
Was the same.
Silence.
Deep.
Absolute. No one spoke. No one moved. Because for the first time in their lives, they had felt everything they had spent years avoiding. And they knew exactly who had shown it to them. Marcus opened his eyes.
Slowly.
Breathing steady. Tired. But unbroken. He looked down at Lyra. You okay? He asked quietly. Lyra nodded.
Barely.
Still trembling. But standing. Still there. The head counselor, Arda, finally spoke.
Her voice was different now.
Smaller. Less controlled. What did you do to us? She asked. Lyra met her gaze. I didn't do anything to you, she said softly. I showed you what was already there. The words settled heavily. Because they knew. She was right. Arda lowered her eyes briefly. Then whispered. I had forgotten how much I missed my son. The room went still again. No one interrupted. No one judged. Because now, they understood. Another counselor spoke.
Slow.
Careful. She didn't harm us. A pause. She revealed us. One by one, heads began to nod. Not quickly. Not easily. But honestly. All except one. Counselor Dane. The oldest among them.
Silent. Still.
Watching Lyra closely. His expression unreadable. Ancient. Heavy. He had not reacted like the others. Had not shown visible emotion. But Lyra felt him.
Deep. Far deeper than the rest.
A grief so old, it had turned quiet. Still. Like a stone at the bottom of an endless ocean. Their eyes met. And without thinking, Lyra did something small. Something no one else noticed. She gave him the faintest nod. A silent message. I see it. You're not alone. Dane stared at her. For a long moment. Then, slowly, he raised his hand. Yes. The vote was complete. 17 voices. 17 decisions. All aligned. The directive. Overturned. 3 weeks later. There was no ceremony. No announcement. No celebration. Just paperwork. Quiet. Final. Marcus walked into the adoption center one last time. Not as a visitor, but as something else. Something permanent. Sarah stood at her desk. She didn't smile.
Didn't speak.
She simply nodded once. And stepped aside. At the end of the hallway, Lyra was already waiting. Bag packed. 2 small creatures held carefully in her arms. She had been ready. For a long time. She looked at Marcus. Then at the screen beside her. 1,000 visits. 1,000 rejections. 1 yes. Does it follow me? She asked quietly. Marcus shook his head. No. He glanced at the screen. That number ends here. Lyra looked at it for a moment longer. Then turned away. And walked forward. Outside. The world felt different. Open.
Bright. Alive.
Lyra stepped into it carefully. Like someone entering something fragile. Something new. Marcus opened the car door for her. She climbed in, holding her creatures close. They drove in silence. Not empty silence. Comfortable silence. The kind that didn't need to be filled. After a while, Lyra spoke. "What do you feel right now?" she asked. Marcus thought about it. "Honestly, something I haven't felt in a long time." She looked at him. "What is it?" He glanced at her briefly, then back at the road. "The same thing you gave them." A pause. "Something I thought was gone." Lyra tilted her head slightly. What was it waiting for? Marcus exhaled softly. A reason to come back. Lyra looked out the window, watching the world move.
People. Light. Life.
And then, quietly, she smiled. Not small, not careful. A real smile.
Warm. Free.
Entirely her own. And in that moment, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in her life, Lyra reflected nothing. No amplified emotions. No hidden fears. No buried pain. Because for the first time, what she felt didn't need to be returned. It was already enough. And somewhere far beyond Earth, in systems that had once labeled humans as ordinary, a new understanding began to form. Not through power, not through strength, but through something far more dangerous. A human had faced his own pain, and did not run, did not break, did not hide, and, because of that, he had done what no advanced species had managed to do. He had turned a risk into a home, because humans were never special for what they could destroy. They were special for what they refused to abandon.